Shabbat Shalom, my beautiful family and friends, and thank you for joining me again for another important episode of a few quality moments around the Shabbat table with the Rabbi's son. We're going to resume our great quest, that quest to find the answers to life's most important questions and to find those answers at the source that the creator of the universe has given us to seek such answers, at the wellspring of the beautiful Torah, of the first 5 books, the point from which the revelation stream emanates. The most pure water of all is found in the first 5 books of the Torah, the first of the books of the Bible. And in these 5 books, we're given these essential keys to learning everything about how life works and how life doesn't work and how to make sure we're on the side of the life working part. So welcome. Let's get together. Let's spend some time together around the Sabbath table. Get you a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or a glass of water or whatever beverage you like, a snack, and we'll just join hands together, join our hearts together, and join our lives together as we conjoin in this moment when our lives intersect and we share beautiful moments of revelation from the words of the Torah. Well, we are in the next phase. We're entering the next phase, I should say, of the great revelation stream. And that is the 5th of the 5 books of Torah, Deuteronomy as it's known in the Western world, but Devarim as it's known anciently from this very source. The very beginning it was called and is known as Devarim. And we'll talk about what Devarim are and what Devarim means. But if you've noticed the title to this particular section that I've addressed the title to it, it talks about special words and actions that bring a conviction and a change, a desire to change in thought and speech and behavior without that sense of rejection or condemnation. This is the art of admonition, the art of convicting but not condemning admonition. This is the expert level of divine communication and our communication with one another, inspired and empowered by the divine. If you want to know the secrets of giving admonition, exhortation, encouragement, correction. If you want to know how to do this without creating that sense of condemnation and rejection that the world so often knows and responds with, then you have to know the secrets of Devarim, of this book of Torah. This is Moshe's wisdom book. Whenever he comes to the end of his life, he's learned what it means to impart condemnation and rejection. He's learned what it means to just be a loose cannon expressing his opinion, even if he was right, his opinion. He learned that at the waters of Meribah. At the waters of Meribah, he let his emotions go wild. He let his feelings go crazy. He let his sense of what's right and wrong overrule anything about the plan of the Holy One. And he shouted as he smote the rock with his rod against the instructions of the Holy One with a great fanfare and violence and noise to attract attention. And he screamed at the people, "You rebels! You will always rebel. You have always rebelled against us. Do I have to, Moshe, Aaron and I have to strike this rock to bring forth water so you can live? Oh, do you hear what he did? Do you know people who are doing it today? Are you perhaps guilty of doing that very thing today? You think you're right? You may be. But you have no ability to temper your emotions, temper your feelings, and to come up with an idea, with a vision of actually healing something rather than breaking it. Healing someone's heart rather than driving them further and further away from the King with condemnation and rejection. This is what this story, the whole book of Devarim, is all about. Moshe's final download to Bnei Israel and to all of their generations and to all of us who attach. And here we are waiting to hear, what's the secret, Moshe? What's the secret to life's most important questions? This is a quest that we're on, and this is an important stage in the quest. So join me, let's get together, let's enjoy our time together around the Shabbat table for the next 9 weeks as we explore Moshe's teaching on how to give words and do actions that bring conviction and bring a change in thought and speech and behavior without driving people further away by virtue of condemnation and rejection. So, to begin our study today, to begin our conversations around the Rabbi's Son's Shabbat table, here are some questions that are important questions of life that we seek answers to. First of all, considering where we've come thus far with 4 books of Torah under our belt, as it were, what does all that we have learned thus far mean? How is it supposed to impact us? How is it supposed to impact our families and our bloodline, our futures? How is it supposed to impact our present? How is it supposed to impact our spheres of influence? And how is it supposed to impact the world and the grand plan? So what does it all mean? What does all that we have learned thus far mean? How do we make it actually transformative in the world? And where do we go from here? We know where we've been, but where do we go from here? What is our vision for the future? What is our vision for the years, the decades, the centuries, the millennia to come through our bloodline? What about us are we supposed to leave to make it a better place? Another question we can ask ourselves to start this book of Devarim, Deuteronomy as the Western world calls it, who are we anyway? What's so special about us? What do we have that other peoples and nations, the nations that rage, the peoples that imagine, what do we have? What have we received that they have not? What is our special advantage and privilege? What is our key secret weapons that we possess to do the things that the Creator wants us to do upon the earth, as opposed to just going down the same rabbit trails and rat traps that the rest of the nations, the raging nations and the vain imagining peoples are doing? Who are we really? And why are we here now at this stage? What is our mission objective? What are we here for? What are our marching orders? How are we supposed to interact and engage? What weapons and ammo or tools, if you want to look at it that way, have we been issued? And what are we expected to be proficient with that will enable us to accomplish whatever the plan of the Holy One is in the world, in our generation, in our day? And then what weapons and ammo or tools, as you may choose to say it, are we supposed to train our children in, our children's children in, that they can be proficient in them and have this effect of bringing a change in people, bringing about a transformation in thought and speech and action in people without bringing words and actions of condemnation and rejection? How can we be effective servants of the King? What are our rules of engagement with the raging nations and with the individuals that we meet in our marketplaces and on our byways and highways and in the streets? What are to be our rules of engagement with the cultures and the ethnicities and the ideologies and the political parties and the political the terrorists of the world? What are to be our rules of engagement? When are we supposed to take out whatever weapons and ammo or tools that we've been given to be proficient with and actually engage with those? And how are we to do it with subject to what rules? So we don't do overkill. What are these secrets of our rules of engagement? And what is the secret of our success? And how do we make this happen? And then what are the consequences if we fail in our mission? If we remain lone rangers and loose cannons, if we do not subordinate our emotions and our feelings and our will to the strategies and the beauty and the majesty and the goodness of the King and his wisdom. What if we don't do that? What are the consequences of failure? What are the consequences to us personally? What are the consequences to our wives and husbands, our children, our family members? What are our consequences to our neighbors? What are the consequences to our communities? What are the consequences to our generation? What are the consequences to the world if we do not do what we're called to do and learn what we're called to learn and begin to use what we're called to use in the world? And when will be our time to shine? Not to get glory for ourselves, but to get glory for our King. When will be our time to shine? And how will we know it? Well, these are questions. Good questions to ask yourself and those who gather with you around the Shabbat table or around your community gatherings that you have, hopefully after this little time around the Shabbat table. So, to get us ready for all these things, to begin to explore the answers to these most important questions of life, I could say, can we talk? Can we talk? Moshe, the prophet of the Most High, requests the pleasure of your company at a meeting of all Israel of all generations. And this meeting is called the Book of Deuteronomy, of Devarim. The location for the first initial meeting of this great challenge is the Mishkan, the tabernacle, as it's so called in Western culture. That Mishkan, the place of the Holy One dwells in Shekans, the place of his abiding presence, the place of his manifest presence. Do you know it still exists? There's not a building somewhere we can go to make this happen. There's not a structure or an edifice anywhere on this earth at this time where we can go to make this happen. But there is a place. Do you know how to find that place? Do you know how to connect with the eternal? Do you know how to connect with the unseen realm and the throne room and the courts of the King? Do you know how to do that through prayer and meditation? Do you know how to do that through interaction with the one who created you? Do you know this? Well, this is the place. It still exists. Our key to everything is to find it and to learn how to abide in it and become courtiers in those courts and around that throne. When does it start? The first of these meetings of Devarim, it takes place on the first day of the 11th month of the 40th year after the Exodus. The first day of the 11th month of the 40th year. One Shevat, some call it, of the month, the new moon of Shevat. And that's not where we are in the calendar as well. I'm having this conversation with you. Today is the 6th day of Av, which is the 5th month of the Torah year. But this event looks forward to one Shevat, a few months down the road, 7 months down the road, in a time to come. This great meeting, this great gathering, where Moshe, the prophet of the Most High, will explain how to use, take, receive, embrace, and give off Devarim. The mission is to catch the King's vision and to grasp the King's heart. The mission is to build and operate and offer to the world a kingdom of heaven-scented society on earth, one that operates through ordinary human beings who have transcended the veil and have entered into the unseen realm and stand daily before the King and walk in his courts with the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders and the seraphim songs and the cherubims actions and movements and service and the angels that are dispatched at the will of the Holy One. This is the way we live. We need to be able to operate in that realm and bring that realm to the earth. So to build and operate and offer to the world a kingdom of heaven-scented society, a society that will open the gates of tikkun, of healing, of fixing, of restoration. Tikkun nefesh, the healing of the individual heart and soul. Tikkun olam, the fixing, healing, the redemption of the world, the age in which we live. Who will make it available to all tribes and all nations and all clans and all families and every individual we meet on the face of the earth. This is the mission. This is the plan. Can we talk? Moshe, the prophet of the Most High, to request your company. It'll last 36 days, about 9 weeks in our time, the way it works, the way our schedules work out of how we divide this up. But we're going to have a little bit of a course on the higher levels of spiritual life in the kingdom. I call this Devarim. I call this whole book of Torah, I call it incoming. Famous words of radar in MASH. Incoming! There's something coming to us. Receive it. Get ready. Ready yourself for what's coming. Incoming! We're going to receive word bombs and action bombs that target men's hearts and souls, their neshama. They target and awaken the neshama within them. These things are incoming now, and they're called Devarim, and we will see them develop, and we will learn the skills of operating in Devarim ourselves from Moshe. Welcome to Sefer Devarim, also known as Sefer Geulah in the Hebrew tongue. Geulah means redemption. It means rescue, redemption, the kinsman redemption kind of a thing, where one person rescues another and brings good about in their life when their life was going the wrong way or their situation had gotten desperate. And someone, a kinsman, a caring soul comes along and brings about Geulah, the redemption, the restoration that the person needs, not the condemnation they don't need. So Sefer Devarim, also known as Sefer Geulah, is the blueprint and the critical infrastructure plan for building the Messianic kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. Can I repeat that for you? Because you need to understand what we're dealing with in the book of Devarim, in the book of Deuteronomy. It is the blueprint and the critical infrastructure plan for us to build the Messianic kingdom of earth, of heaven on earth. Make it on earth as it is in heaven. Oh, beloved, dear friends and family, we're about to embark on a 9-week course of study that is the highest possible level of spiritual search and quest. We're going to be dealing with the 5th Sefer of Torah, the first one since Bereshit that doesn't begin with a vav, doesn't begin with a connector. In other words, this is like the first. It's a bookend to Bereshit. Devarim is the bookend, as the words, you begin to get these words and actions of the Creator that brought about this great creative process that began Bereshit. So it is with Devarim. We're going to have words and actions of Moshe acting as a human being, bringing to earth the things of the heavenly, to do the same thing with regard to Bnei Israel and the nations of the world, as the Holy One did to creation in the first opening of Bereshit. Everything in the middle, the 3 books in the middle, which were Shemot and Vayikra and Bamidbar, in other words, in English, in Hebrew, and ordinary language of America, be Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers. Those 3 books all began the text with a vav, with this connector of and, in other words. In other words, they were all following in a flowing rhythm that was connected one to another. These bookend books of Bereshit, Genesis, and Devarim, Deuteronomy, these stand alone. These are pillars upon which the truths of heaven come forth. This book, Devarim, is future-focused as opposed to past-focused or present-focused. This book is about how we're going to build something upon the earth and what it's supposed to look like when we build it. It is an invitation to all people, including you, and to all generations and all families, including yours, to build a kingdom of heaven-centered society on earth, and to do it step by step, conversation by conversation, interaction by interaction, transaction in the marketplace by transaction in the marketplace, in every phase and sphere of life in our day. So, if we understand what we're dealing with, this is what I call the blue thread level of Torah. If you understand about tzitzis or tassels on the corners of your garments, as we read about in the book of Bamidbar, this instruction to always see these things and remember the mitzvah, the instructions of life that the Holy One has given us, not to go off whoring, as it says in the King James Version, or lustfully pursuing the things of this world, the things of our heart, and the things that our eyes see. If we're going to do this, then we understand that the tassels are basically white linen, but they have one blue thread running through it. That blue thread marks this off, and that's what the book of Deuteronomy does. This is the blue thread level of Torah. This is what marks us as the people of the Holy One, walking in accordance with Devarim, as opposed to just the other aspects of the Torah. The first 4 books of the Torah have brought us from the Stone Age of the spiritual realm to the Bronze Age of that realm. We are elevated by virtue of what we have read so far. This is transformative. Our world has been transformed by virtue of the things we have learned. The mitzvot, the mishpatim, in other words, the commandments or instructions of life, the mishpatim, the just judgments or the wise, forward-looking proclamations and decrees that bring peace in the world and bring hope for the world. These are the things that we have learned thus far, and then we've gone so far, transformed somewhat far from the raging nation stage and the vain imagination people's stage. We've come from the Stone Age, as it were, into the spiritual realm, into the Bronze Age of that realm. We're now capable of functioning at a higher level, but that's not the end of it all. Sefer Devarim is going to take us further from the Bronze Age of the spiritual realm, as it were, to the Iron Age, to the Industrial Age, to the Information Age, to the Revelation Age, and beyond. This is the blue thread level of Torah. As we begin the quest in this book of Deuteronomy or Devarim, no more wilderness wanderings will be our lot. We have done the wilderness wandering thing. We've accomplished that. We survive sometimes by the skin of our teeth, by the sweat of our brow, and by the grace of our King. But we have survived. We are still here. No more wilderness wanderings for us. No more illustrative stories of our ancestors' past that we connect with. Yes, they're there. We are all part of. That's part of our Bronze Age transformation. It's time to get real. It's time to get blunt. It's time to turn our eyes to the future. It's time to do what we're put on earth to do. Sefer Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy, is our final pre-deployment briefing before we go out and put it all on the line. If you want to know how important the book of Devarim is and the idea of this higher level of divine communication and earthly communication inspired by the divine is, then I want to turn your attention to Hosea, as it's called in the Western world, chapter 14, verse 2. The beginning of that verse in Hebrew says, Kachu imachem Devarim. Take for and upon yourself. Carry Devarim. This is the download. This is what he's referring to. The wisdom and the truth of the higher blue thread level of the Torah. Take it into yourself. Take it upon yourself. Let it do its work in you. Take for and upon yourself Devarim, this download of armor-piercing weaponry, and yet a tool of reconstruction. Veshuva El Adonai, and return to the Holy One. This is not about causing conviction only. This is about bringing about a great revolution, a great restoration, a great redemption, a great return to the Holy One. When I was a young man growing in the wisdom of the Holy One, I remember there was a phase that we went through, and everyone was saying, turn back to the church, or in the Jewish realm, turn back to the synagogue. You've gotten away from it. You've gotten away from these things. As if the goal of life was to get back to the church or to get back to the synagogue. No, that was not the goal. There's a higher goal. I didn't realize it then. And then we got another level. We got to another level of my training, and it began to be turn back to the Bible, turn back to the Torah, turn back to the prophets, turn back to the red letter words of Yeshua of Nazareth, turn back to something written. And yes, that's a good thought, but it's not the end result we seek either. We want to turn back to the one who spoke Yehior, light be, to the one who designed this entire creation, the one who designed us, the one who designed the ages and the millennia of our Earth time that we know, the one who designed all the stars and the planets, the moon and the life forces and the species of this world, the one who designed the ecosystem, the one who designed everything that we know. That's who we really want to get back to. It's way beyond getting back to the church or the synagogue. It's way, way beyond getting back to an understanding of the Bible or the Torah or the prophets or the Psalms or the teachings of Yeshua or the writings and the letters of Shaul of Tarsus and Kepha and Yehuda, etc., and Yohanan. And it's more than those that are writing. It's turning back to the Holy One himself, reconnecting with our Creator, redrawing the breath that he breathed into Adam in Genesis 2:7. He made Adam a nishma chaim, a living, breathing life force as of the Holy One's image, in the Holy One's image. That's where we're getting back to. So as we begin this great quest, the higher levels of this great quest now in Sefer Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy, we need to remind ourselves of the essential givens that we've learned through the rest of the Torah, the other parts of Torah that we have already explored. First of all, we learned and we know that the heavens and the earth and all around them was created by this eternal Elohim, the Holy One, the Creator. When he did so, when he created all these things, they were all created with a grand plan and agenda in mind. A grand plan for redemption and restoration and hope and joy and shalom and harmonious interaction, pictured by Eden. Well, this is our first given, that's where we're going to. That's where we came from. And that's the plan of the Holy One to get us back to. So the heavens and the earth were created by the Elohim, the Holy One, with the Elohim signature, certain pattern brush strokes that are recognizable by him, and with a great plan and agenda in mind for the world. The second essential given that we're going to approach the book of Devarim in, the second essential given that we have learned by virtue of our first 4 books in Torah and our study thereof, is that there is a covenant between the Creator of the universe and man through an individual named Avraham. Abraham, as he's called in the Western world. But Avraham, the Abrahamic covenant, is essential to the grand plan. It is the keystone of the grand plan. And this Abrahamic covenant is in place, and it becomes the source out of which the grand plan and agenda will come forth. So the nation built forth, the great nation that he promised Avraham, that's the B'nai Israel, and all who attach themselves to B'nai Israel. This is the source through which the Abrahamic covenant and its redemptive process, its healing, Edenic process will come into the world. There is no other source besides the Abrahamic covenant and those of the seed of Abraham and those attached to that seed, growing in the same ground. And so this is the keystone of the grand plan and agenda, the Abrahamic covenant. And it is that all peoples and all families of the face of the earth will be blessed through this man Abraham and his seed and those attached to him. The third of the great essential givens that we have learned from our studies thus far in Torah that will give us a foundation to jump into the book of Devarim is that the era of Egyptian bondage, which corresponds to the times of the Gentiles in all ages, is giving way. It's not intended to be permanent. The era of Egyptian bondage, the times of the Gentiles, these are temporary phenomena designed to give way to a greater era of kingdom influence. Seasons of refreshing will come, and it will come on earth as it is in heaven, bit by bit, until Mashiach comes to reign upon the earth. The fourth of the great essential givens is that the Holy One's messenger for the transition, for the transformation, has been Moshe. He is the first fruits of all the great messengers the Holy One will bring to bring the Abrahamic covenant and the plan for an era of kingdom influence to bear in this earth. And he is the one who gives us the tools, the weapons of our warfare, or the tools of our trade, as it would be. And those are found in the Torah in general, but in Sefer Devarim in particular, and in the Mishkan, in the place of dwelling, the special secret place where mankind can dwell with his Creator, commune with his Creator, and observe and absorb the things of the heavenly realm, and to bring those things to bear upon earth. And the fifth of the essential givens that we will start our study of Devarim with is that Moshe's time of service is drawing to a close, and someone will need to rise up and take his place, communicate the truths that he is trying to communicate to us, bring about a realm where men, inspired by communion with the Creator of the universe, can speak and act in ways that bring conviction and a desire to be transformed and a desire to change to people who are in need of it, without bringing condemnation or rejection or turning them away. So, Moshe, let's talk about him. He's 119 years old. He's 6 weeks away from his 120th birthday. In 6 weeks, 36 days, he's going to turn 120 years old. He has 5 weeks and 1 day of mortal life remaining, and then he will reach his vanishing point, as I like to call it. He will be with us, but he will not be seen ever again. He will not be physically in his physical body with us, but his spirit and his wisdom and the things he has imparted to us will come. They will be with us forever. These are Devarim, and they do not pass away with the life force of the one who spoke them. Secret. They are like covenants that run with the land. They are like breets. That's the Hebrew word for covenant. That so much bigger than the English ever thinks about it. Brit means it's spoken to one person and his seed and his seed and his seed forever and ever. It's eternal. Doesn't die with the speaker or the receiver. So it is with Moshe's words. So it is with the Moshe's teaching. So it is with Moshe's life force. He will live on. Moshe knows, though, that his physical body is deteriorating, even though there's no signs of it. He's not going blind. He's not going deaf. He's not losing his vitality or his vigor or his energy. Strangely enough, he's been with the Holy One enough that this inspiration from the presence, the Mishkan experience of the Holy One has brought him health and strength and life, but yet he knows his time, his allotted time upon the earth is going quickly. So he knows it's time for parting words. He knows it's time for elevated discourse. He knows it's time for a final charge to the nations and the peoples and the generations that he has been tasked with affecting and impacting for the kingdom. It's time to put and cast in the past in perspective, and to put the present in context, and to put the future into the form of an inspired vision that draws people like a moth to a flame. So Moshe's discourses on the plain are about to begin. They will begin this week. They did begin this week in our studies. We read them every year because every generation is to be impacted by these wisdom sayings, his Devarim. Moshe's discourses on the plain began on one Shabbat in the 40th year, in the 11th month of the 40th year after the Exodus. By tradition, he died on 7th of Adar, 36 days later. And so then after that, there were 30 days of mourning, and historically, and in the 6th day of the first month was the day on which the mourning ceased. The 10th day, 4 days later, 3 days later really, 10 days later, 10 days total into the month of Nisan. In that 40th year, the Jordan River was crossed under Yehoshua, and the great adventure of conquering the land, of displacing the ones who were defiling the land began. Moshe has heretofore been giving us just the dictation. Whatever the Holy One told him to write, he wrote. He was like what they call that, a stenographer. He was just writing down what the Holy One told him. Bereshit, Shemot, Vayikra, Bamidbar, these were all just the facts, just the dictation as the Holy One gave him. He was only a scribe. But the book of Devarim, this book, this is personal. This is Moshe. This is poignant. This is paternal. This is our Moshe Avinu, Moshe Rabbeinu. This is who he is, our father, our patriarch, and our rabbi. So, this is an interesting thing. He's about to speak over us, introduce us to this realm of Devarim. Higher level than the mitzvot or commandments. Higher level than mishpatim or judgments. Higher level than edut or testimonies or stories that bring about wisdom and understanding and inspiration. Higher than all the other ways that he could communicate in Torah, the things that are referenced in Psalm 119. He's going to take us all the way up to Devarim. Now, the thing is, when he began his call back at Mount Horeb, 40 years ago, 40 years ago, near the burning bush encounter, Moshe protested to the Holy One when he got his call, and he said these words, and kind of listen to the Hebrew and listen to the English as well, because I'll give you both. I'll give you starting in Hebrew. He said to the Holy One, Adonai, Holy One, Lo ish Devarim, I am not a man of Devarim. I'm not a man who speaks these words that bring change and transformation without bringing condemnation and rejection and a sense of failure and a sense of offense. I'm not that guy. He said, Ki kevad peh u kevad lashon anoki. Ki kevad peh. Ukaved Lashon Anoki. I am a man with a heavy mouth. I speak rash, raw, rude things. I speak, and they get condemnation out of that. And I'm a man of a heavy tongue. My tongue weighs on people. I don't have this touch, this delicate touch of Devarim. I'm not a man, lo ish Devarim. That's what he said 40 years ago. Back in the beginnings of Sefer Shemot. But he has lived some life since then. He has had some experiences since then. Have you? Now the issue is not whether he was an ish Devarim, a man of Devarim, whenever he was called. The issue is he that before he departs? And finally, after 40 long years, and a whole lot of heavy mouth and heavy tongue episodes along the way, Moshe has finally become an ish Devarim, after all. That's what the Holy One does when you interact with him. He takes the brashest, rudest, most sarcastic, most arrogant people, and he can soften their heart and open their eyes and awaken their neshama and make even you and even me an ish or an isha Devarim, a man or a woman of these beautiful, powerful words and actions. This is the Devarim portal we're about to open. True tone oracles speak words, actions that bring conviction, bring a change, a transformation, a desire, and a vision for transformation, not condemnation and rejection. So, the realm of Devarim is a high-level realm. No more flesh-driven emotional responses in this higher level, higher realm. No more pseudo-intellectual abstractions where we think ourselves wise because of the things we know or the things we say, the things that are gathered from the raging nations and their philosophers and their ideologues and their religions. No more pseudo-intellectual abstractions. No more talking in concepts and ivory tower ideals. No more ideological, philosophical, religious, or political rants. No more! We have entered the Devarim portal. We have a higher call, a higher use of language, a higher use of behavior, of body language, of societal impact. So no more tropes of ethnic, racial, national, cultural, or class bias. No more sarcasm. No more arrogance. No more. No more. No more recycled newspeak we heard off the television or some YouTube teacher or speaker or politician or ideologue. No more worn-out cliches of religion. No more prideful, blame-casting rhetoric. No more. No more. We have entered. We're called into the Devarim portal. No more pithy slogans shouted or chanted as we march in the streets. No more. No more hype. No more hyperbole. No more hypocrisy. No more. No more. This is the Devarim portal. Enter and come about. Be who you were created to be. Welcome if you're coming. If you want to come, welcome to the Master's Program of the Kingdom of Heaven. We've been in the undergraduate work. This is the Master's Program. This is Devarim, words and actions and engagement protocols that release creative energy like Yehi or let light be. That carry tikkun nefesh and tikkun olam capability and impact. That can fix things, that can fix people, that can fix situations, that can fix the world and the raging nations and the peoples that imagine a vain thing. Welcome to the Master's Program of the Kingdom of Heaven. Well, with that introduction, let us stop and sing our call to worship if you're willing, if you're ready. If you know it, sing along with me. It's in Hebrew. It's the Baraku, blessing we speak before reading from the Torah. Baraku et Adonai Hamvorak. Baruch Adonai Hamvorak Leolam Vaed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher bakar banu mikol ha'amin V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah. Amen. And now would you open our eyes, O Holy One, that we may see wondrous things in your Torah. For we are just strangers in this earth, so do not hide your instructions from us. Well, the closing verse of last week's study, the closing verse of the last book of Torah, the fourth book of Torah, Sefer B'Midbar, the book of Numbers, verse called 36:13 of Numbers, is as follows, was as follows. Ele ha-mitzvot v'ha-mishpatim, and these are the covenant affirming of instructions and decrees, the mitzvot and the mishpatim, asher tzivah Adonai b'yad Moshe, that the Holy One enjoined by the hand of Moshe, al b'nei Israel, for and unto the children of Israel, b'arvot Moav, on Moab's plain or plateau, al Yordan Yericho, across the cascading river, or the Jordan as it's called in the Western world, from the city of Jericho. Ele ha-mitzvot v'ha-mishpatim. You see, at the end of the Sefer B'Midbar, the last book of Torah, we were talking about all the release of the mitzvot and the mishpatim, asher tzivah Adonai, that had been enjoined by the Holy One, b'yad Moshe at that time. Oh, we're going to take a step further beyond Ele ha-mitzvot ve'ha-mishpatim. Goodbye, wilderness. Goodbye, boot camp. Goodbye, special forces training. That was so then. Oh, but this is now. It's time to get advanced weapons training. We have the mitzvot and mishpatim downloads. That was the subject of Sefer's Bereshit, Shemot, Vayikra, and B'Midbar. We have the mitzvot and mishpatim downloads. But now it's time for each of us to become an ish or isha of Devarim, man or woman of these Devarim words, and to mobilize for our deployment into the world. So the fifth book of Torah begins with Aravav, just Ele, these. Ele hadavarim. These are the substantive things, the weighty, glory-carrying words and actions. Ele hadavarim. Asher diber Moshe el kol Yisrael. That Moshe then spoke unto all Israel. Oh, we graduated, right, from mitzvot and mishpatim, as we're discussed in the last verse of Numbers, to Devarim, which we will be exploring for the next 9 weeks. These are the substantive things, the weighty, glory-carrying words and actions that Moshe spoke, informed, gave instructions to regarding all Israel. Be'ever hayarden b'midbar bar'aravav, on the Transjordan wilderness plain. Mul Suf, Bain Paran, opposite Suf, coming out of Paran, opposite Sea of Reeds, coming out of Paran. Ubain Tofel, and through Tofel, which means tastelessness, the veneer of whitewash or folly. V'lavan, and Laban, and v'chatzarot, and the place of trumpets, and v'zdizahav, and too much gold. These are Devarim. These are words that we do not even have to understand with our mind. They transcend our mind. They take us places in the spiritual realm. They take us through a portal, a Devarim portal. We don't even have to know what they mean. That's the key of Devarim, is they are spirit-to-spirit communication, going beyond the things that have talked to the mind. The mitzvot and the mishpatim and the edut of the rest of Torah, they speak to the mind. They speak to the flesh. They speak to the will of man, the nefesh of man. But Devarim, Devarim speak to the spirit, the eternal spirit within. And they communicate at levels that we do not even understand with our minds. So that's how it begins. It says, Echad Asar Yom Mekorev Derek HaSa'ir. It's 11 days. It takes 11 days from Horeb to go by the way of Mount Seir. Ad Kadesh Barnea to Kadesh Barnea. It takes 11 days to get from Horeb to Kadesh Barnea. If you go through Mount Seir, V'yehi be'erba'im shana be'ashtei asar. But it came to pass 40 years into the 40th year, in the 11th month, be'echad lachodesh, on the first day of that moon cycle, Diber Moshe al b'nei Israel. Moshe gave Devarim to the b'nei Israel. Kakol asher siva Adonai oto aleim, according to all that Adonai had charged him regarding them. Oh, so here we are. This is the intro, the beginning part of Sefer Devarim, which will lead us into this 9-week course study of advanced weapons training in the kingdom, advanced skill on how to deal and interact with mankind and our times. So let's talk about the transition we're about to make. We are going to connect, and Devarim connect us with the unseen, timeless dimension of life. If we think that this world, the physical world, the material world that we look at, the city that we live in, or the village that we live in the rural community, whatever it is we live in, the house, do we think this is all there is? And the things you see on the internet or on the news, you think that's all there is? Then Devarim will not ever really attach themselves to you, and you will not attach to the energy of the Devarim. You need to understand there is another unseen, timeless dimension that's not bound by time, strictures of time or strictures of spatial dimension. This is the unseen dimension. This is the throne room dimension of the Holy One. This is the realm of his courts, his kingdom that Moshe saw on the mountain in Exodus 28, and that therefore gave the blueprint pattern for building the Mishkan, the tabernacle upon the earth, as a scale model of what he was seeing in this unseen, timeless dimension. So we're about to transition again, where we're going to get connected, reconnected, link up again with this eternal dimension, the timeless dimension. The first use of Devar was used as a noun. When it was used as a verb, we say it beginning in Genesis, but early in Genesis 1. But in Genesis, the use as a noun, Devarim is the plural of Devar. Devar means to communicate in ways that go to the spirit and affect thought, speech, and behavior. So they're heavy, weighty words, or actions in some cases. It doesn't have to be just words, it can be actions. It's actually related to the sound and the action of a bee. Devor in Hebrew is a bee, and the idea of bees, Devarim, is the idea that bees are very advanced creatures, very skillful, very important to their environment. They are the pollinators, but they are so much more. They actually make the creation and its ecosystem function. They aid and advance and facilitate the growth of life upon Earth. So what's the bee? What's the Devar? Well, what the bees do
Devarim do. The words that we're going to talk about, the kind of words and actions we talk about, are going to make the life work, make Eden come about. And the first use of the Devarim, I was getting to that. Genesis 11:1. And then, this is about at the Tower of Babel. And then all the world had one safa, one lip. They were lippy people. They became one lippy people. And they had one debar. They had one thing that they were saying all the time. And that's what you heard. Let us make for ourselves a name, and let us build a tower that reaches to the heavens. And let us take control of this creation, as opposed to the Holy One having control. Well, that's the anti-debar. They had the anti-debar that we're going to be talking about, the anti-devarim. We will have the true devarim, the true tone devarim, if we pursue our studies in the book of Devarim and beyond. The second thing, after a connection with the unseen and timeless realm, and understanding we're going to reverse the process, the problem. We're called to reverse the problem of the Tower of Babel through this Abrahamic message and through this interaction, these words and these actions that carry this great weight into the world, is that there are matters also of tangible earth space that we have to deal with. We have to deal with earth time and earth space. So we all have a certain stage we act upon. For Moshe at this stage, and for Bnei Israel in the 40th year after the Exodus, it was the Transjordanian plain, looking over the Jordan River towards Jericho and beyond, standing under the shadow of Mount Nebo as it's called in the west, and the height of Pisgah. And they had a certain time he was dealing with. The 40th year, the 40th Shana, the 11th Chodesh, the 11th month, the first day. We talked about that. We all have our own individual time. Today, as I said, is the 6th day of the month of Av. We are coming up on the 9th of Av, the critical day. We will talk about that if we have time. If not, I hope you'll discuss what the 9th of Av is, what this coming day is. Over the year, generations, and into the future, what the 9th of Av means to our people. But if we don't have time to talk about that, let's go on. Let's talk about what's the next. There is a pattern generations narrative. The pattern generation is the generation we're talking about in the book of Numbers, the book of Deuteronomy. This generation that sets the pattern, the blueprint for all of our lives. We don't live independent of them. We triangulate with this a pattern generation. What they did affects everything we do. We live our lives through the lens of that pattern generation's experiences and encounters with the Creator and with mankind. So we have a connection to that pattern generation. After the wars of the Moabian plain, the Sichon and the Og, the giants and the Amori that came and attacked us, after the onset then of the fatness that came whenever we took over their cities and their land, and for the first time in our lives in this pattern generation, we actually began to prosper. We had land, we had cattle, we had livestock, we had wealth, we had stores, we had orchards, we had vineyards, we had forests full of game, wild game. We had all we wanted. We were fat. And what does fatness do to a people, to a person? I don't mean overweight. I mean just having more than you need. Suddenly, rags to riches, winning the lottery. That's what happened to us. How do we respond whenever we look around, we see we have more than we need? Well, the Holy One continues with the language of Moshe. He's going to go forward. He's going to talk about life on the Moabian plain. He's going to bring about a few levels of what in English we may call rebuke. Rebuke has changed meanings over the course of time since the King James Version translation took place, or the Geneva Bible before that. Rebuke now has a very negative connotation, but rebuke actually it's a yakad, a different word in the Hebrew. The word in the Hebrew means to take the lead and show the way. It's not a matter of correction or rebuke, or as we call it today, or some sort of angry declaration of telling you what's wrong. It is about taking away and showing the way. So we're going to see that develop in this first parsha of Torah. You can discuss the various different things. He talked about He threw code words out there, like we talked about. This Devarim go to the Spirit, and you don't have to tell the whole story. You can just say a word, and it reminds you, oh yes, that. And he did that with regard to Suf. He mentioned Suf, Sea of Reeds. That brings about the whole story. It reminds us of the whole story and the deliverance, but yet the fear that we had before the deliverance, and about the method of deliverance. He said, "Stand and see." Yeshua Adonai, the Yeshua, the deliverance, the salvation, the personality, and the actions of Yeshua Adonai. See that, and that's how we got through the Sea of Reeds, that made the parting of the waters, and we walked through dry shod. Well, this is all in one word, Suf. That's what what Devarim, puts as the plural, says. So we'll see that. We'll see him talk about Kadesh Barnea and what happened at Kadesh Barnea and how we lacked emunah. We did not have emunah. Emunah does not come by virtue of knowledge or understanding or teaching. Emunah comes by virtue of an activation by a Devarim, activate emunah. And we didn't have Devarim to activate emunah at the Sea of Reeds or at Kadesh Barnea. Something else had to happen. We had to see the movement of Yeshua, Yeshua Adonai. He'll talk about the interactions with the king of Emori, of Esau, the king of Edom, and the kings of the Amorites, and lead us up to that place. And that's kind of where we'll stop. We'll stop that version. He's going to give us our itinerary. He's going to tell us we're going to go enough. Rav lechem shevet bahar hazeh, he's going to say early on. And this is the first quote of Devarim directly from the Holy One. Rav lechem shevet bahar hazeh. Enough. This is enough of you sitting around this mountain. Penu esu lachem uvo'u, and face forward and lift yourselves up and go forward. Go toward Har Emori, the mountain of the Emorite, Nebo and Pisgah. Ve'el kol shekenu it ba'arava bahar, and all the neighboring places, and all the high plains and the plateaus. Uvashpela v'va Negev, uvkov bayam, and all of the hill and the valley and the vale, and into the Negev, into the desert, and into the shores of the seas. This is our mission. This is where we're going, to the land of the Canaani, to the land of the Lebanon, and to the great river, all the way to the Euphrates. This is the vision of the future. Behold, re'eh, natati lifnekem et ha'aretz, I'm giving and entrusting the land to you. Go up and possess the land that the Holy One swore to the patriarchs, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, to give them to their seed after them. Well, we've talked about what Devarim are. I hope you have a good conversation around your Shabbat tables about what those mean, what they look like, what they do, what their effect is, the buzzwords of the kingdom, much greater than the buzzwords of politics or ideology or religion. Well, it's time for me to leave you and let you have your conversations around your own Shabbat tables and in your communities. May you be blessed. May this 9-week course in the advanced levels of kingdom weaponry and toolkits, may it lead you into higher levels of proficiency and understanding, and also ability to impact your world, your spheres of influence, your family, your household, your neighborhood, your community, your generation, for the King's plan. Eden waits. Let's go. Shabbat Shalom.